We're now joined by Damson, Adeboro and Oba Maduabuchi, both senior advocates of Nigeria, to share their insights on the recent Federal High Court ruling in Abuja, which bars Professor Pat Utomi from proceeding with his proposed shadow government. Thank you, both of you gentlemen, for joining us on Newsnight tonight. Let me start with you here in our studio with Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Damson Adeboro. Now, Justice Omotosho actually ruled that the shadow government is alien to Nigeria's constitution and system of government. Would you say that the constitution explicitly prohibits any form of, such an initiative, or is there any kind of, broader constitutional principles that the Justice Omotosho has followed here?
The provisions of the constitution are very clear, and I cannot pinpoint a particular provisions of the constitution that provides for shadow cabinet.
Does it prohibit it?
Well, expressly may not prohibit it,
right.
Expressly. But what the constitution provides for is parliamentary, presidential system of government, and not parliamentary system of government. So to that extent, what is not included is excluded, whether you like it or not. What is included in the constitution is presidential system of government, and parliamentary is not stated there. So to that extent, the idea of shadow cabinet is not captured by the provisions of the constitution.
All right, let me bring in Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Oba Maduabuchi, into the conversation. Thank you so much for being on Newsnight tonight. When you heard about the judgment, what came to mind? Justice Omotosho says he's reinforcing the supremacy of the Nigerian constitution, which defines the type of governance that is run in the country. What's your take? Senior Advocate Maduabuchi seems not to be connected at the moment. We'll try to fix that and then bring him into the conversation. Let me come back to you, Senior Advocate Adeboro, in the studio. So when you say that it doesn't prohibit, but it doesn't also expressly state, does that mean that it can be left to interpretation, as what Professor Pat Utomi and others have done here?
Oh, sure. The exercise of going to court was to interpret
the DSS went to court.
The DSS Act, whether Pat Utomi's Act, whether it falls within the parameters allowed by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And the court has interpreted it expressly to say, look, I've combed the entire provision of the Constitution. I cannot find where your action is permitted.
But the Constitution also allows for freedom of expression and association. But you see that Justice Omotosho also ruled against that.
You see, if you look at the provision of the Constitution on fundamental rights,
yes,
the right to freedom of expression, the right to freedom of assembly. But if you go to section 45 of the 1999 Constitution, those provisions are not absolute. There are limitations. When you want to exercise a right, it must be exercised within the purview of the law, not just anyhow. When you exercise your right to the extent that it will violate the right of another, then you'll be held responsible. It's as simple as that.
Well, this will definitely test the Nigerian constitution yet again. Let me bring in Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Oba Maduabuchi. How would you react to, Adeboro's position here that the constitution does not explicitly prohibit, the idea of a shadow government. Therefore, Pat Utomi and his group are not in the right when they talk about, shadow government. I guess the question
well, Ngozi, good evening. Good evening.
Good to have you. The question is, since the Constitution does not prohibit...
Yes, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, the Constitution does not explicitly prohibit, shadow government. Does it stop any Nigerian from forming, a shadow government?
Well, with due respect to my friend Adeboro, I don't think he's right. Something cannot be wrong when a law has not said that it is wrong. It is a law that will say that something is wrong before you can say you don't do it. There's nothing assumptuous about it. There's nothing speculative about it. what Atiku has been telling consistent presidents he has done election against is that he is the alternative to them. That is the shadow government. That he is the shadow president. In 2023, Peter Obi told Buhari, told even the present president, I am a better alternative to all of you. That is shadow government. If you go to the states, anytime a governor is running an election and somebody is running against him, that person is saying, I am better than you, I'm your alternative. That is shadow government. So I don't see how people can say we want to assemble men to show that what you are doing, we can do better. Then you say it's unlawful. I don't see how that such an interpretation can be brought into the Nigerian constitution. I don't think so.
Okay, so let me stay with you.
Nothing.
Yes, sorry about the interruption. I thought you had landed on your thought, but I just wanted to chip in to ask you, are you then saying that the court has gone too far in its interpretation? Because the court said that the Constitution is supreme, and the Constitution does define that in Nigeria, the kind of government we run does not give room to what Pat Utomi and his group have provided as shadow government. He even drew parallels between Nigeria and the UK and says there's no room for this. This only threatens the stability of the government.
How does that interfere with government? That Pat Utomi and his friends say we have somebody who can be a better governor.
Go ahead, Senior Advocate.
Finance Minister.
Go ahead, Senior Advocate. Go ahead, please. Okay, looks like we've lost connection with Oba Maduabuchi there in Benue State. Let's bring this back to you, Mr. Adeboro. The Nigerian Constitution does guarantee freedom of association and all of that. Is the offense here that Pat Utomi actually, came out to say, I plan to form a shadow government? If Pat Utomi had gone ahead without necessarily announcing that he plans to form a shadow government, would it then, be an offense against the Nigerian Constitution? Since the same Constitution guarantees freedom of association and what have you, and freedom of thought.
Professor Pat has the right, absolute right, to criticize the government.
Right.
But the criticism must be situated within the provision of the Constitution. Now, the idea of shadow government we are talking about here, if you look at Section 1 of the 1999 Constitution, it says nobody shall govern Nigeria or any part of Nigeria except by method prescribed by the Constitution. As the Constitution prescribed Westminster parliamentary system of government in Nigeria? No. The method prescribed by Nigerian Constitution is presidential system of government.
Would it have mattered if Pat Utomi had called it any other name, without necessarily calling it a shadow government? Would it have mattered?
No, of course. If he, like I said, he has the right to criticize government. But saying that I am forming a shadow government, that's going beyond the cross line. He has crossed the line. You can say, oh, if you can form a political party. The problem is we don't even know
what line he crossed. Like you said, I mean, the Constitution does not explicitly, say anything against it. But this one, we have Oba Maduabuchi back.
We do apologize for the glitches we are encountering tonight. Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Maduabuchi, joining us all the way from Benue State, I believe. Please respond if you can hear me clearly.
Good evening.
Great. Okay, so very quickly, let's wrap this up. You were saying that you do not agree with your colleague here in the studio. You also say you do not agree with the courts to say shadow government is a threat to democracy and stability of the government. But the court says the only way to power is through the elections.
Okay.
Time, not the charm. Senior Advocate Adeboro, to you. When the court says, the only options are through the ballot, one wonders the options left to opposition parties beyond, statements and speeches And like Ngozi rightly asked earlier, if it was a different name, perhaps this would not have ended this way. But, I mean, do you foresee opposition parties seeing this as a clamp down on dissent through the courts?
Absolutely no. Absolutely no. Clearly, you have a right to criticize. You have a right to suggest to the government.
Don't just call it a shadow government.
Yes,
That's what you're saying.
it's not shadow government. You see, by saying to the extent of naming individuals
To become
to
ministers.
man positions in the shadow government is going. That's why I say cross the line.
But you know, every
You have
time,
a right to criticize, you can criticize.
every time opposition actually criticizes government, you know, I mean, doubles down, pushes back and says, look, don't just criticize us, give us alternatives. Right?
Yes.
Alternative opinion,
Yes.
or maybe alternative, you know, persons who can come up with alternative views and what have you. What is fundamentally wrong with that? And by the way, is this not sending some kind of signal to, you know, civil society, Nigerians who want to speak out against what they see as, you know, wrong moves by the government, wrong policy or wrong decisions by the government? Is this not another way of gagging opposition? And maybe any Nigerian,
I don't
for
see
that
that
matter.
way. People are talking. People are criticizing the government. Organizations are criticizing the government. Civil liberties are criticizing the government. Nobody clap down on them.
But just don't call yourself a shadow
But
government.
saying you want to form shadow government or you are forming shadow government, this is clearly against the law.
Well,
we have a law here. The law must be respected.
I mean, you're right that it goes beyond the name. Professor Patutomi had talked about what the shadow government really means beyond the name, to have people drafting alternative policies to the government in power. So what next for Professor Patutomi? The court has barred them, himself and others who may have this idea, but this is the Federal High Court. Do you think perhaps they can, you know, seek further redress at the higher court? Is that possible for them?
First of all, I've listened to him today.
Yes.
And he said he has taken the judgment of the cause, as it were. But that does not take away his right to talk, to criticize government. That's the law. That's the system. But again, that does not preclude him from appealing. That's why we have the hierarchy of courts in Nigeria. If you are not satisfied with judgment of High Court, you go to Court of Appeal. And if you are still not satisfied with the Court of Appeal decision, you go to Supreme Court. That's why we have it there. So that if it was an error, it can be corrected on appeal.
So do you think that a legal precedent that could be used to clamp down on political dissent or innovation in political organizing, especially ahead of future elections, I mean, do you see that being the case here?
Not at all. Nobody has.
Well, your position is already clear, so I mean.
My position is clear,
Yeah.
and I'll maintain it at the end. I've been here on this matter before, and I stated this clearly.
Okay.
That he has the right, but his right is not absolute.
All right. I think
It's not be limited within the purview allowed by law.
Great. I think you've reiterated your point,
Yeah.
which Senior Advocate of Nigeria,
Was
Madam
actually going to counter.
That's his opinion.
Unfortunately,
In fact,
we didn't have him.
I would be happy to listen to him
Yeah,
so
all
that
right.
we can exchange
Okay.
ideas.
All right. We'll leave it at that. Thank you so
very
much
much.
for joining
My
us
pleasure.
tonight
Thank
in
you
the
very
news.
much. Thank you.
Damson Adeboro is a Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Unfortunately, we couldn't have a conversation with Oba Maduabuchi. Both of them were sharing their views on the recent judgment
And
on
opposing views.
yes,
at that.
on the recent judgment of the High Court on Professor Patutomi's shadow government in Nigeria.
Right to form a shadow government.